Hello, good morning and welcome to everyone, and good moment if you're not having a morning right now. So once again, we're stepping into our shared community space together of Sangha Live, and maybe just taking a moment at this kind of threshold of the moment as we find ourselves here. Just to breathe, just to unwind a little bit. So it's really lovely to be here, and as always, really lovely to see and sense the community through the chat messages. And yeah, obviously, you're really invited to place yourself there, put some words into this shared gathering of words, whether saying good morning or where you are, how things are. It really supports that sense of community that we have together. And as you'll know, this being called Sangha Live, Sangha meaning this community that comes together. So if you haven't already, you really feel invited to name yourself in the community through the chat. And but also equally feel free just to be here behind the scenes. Your presence is really appreciated and honored and welcomed in whatever way you choose to be here. So by way of brief introduction, and those of you who want to kind of check out a little bit more, you can kind of go back to Monday's session. So I'm Nathan Glyde. I'm currently tuning in from Israel, kind of in Israel, Palestine, stepping between the two while I'm over here. And yeah, I'm here to guide the sessions. I'm a meditation Dharma teacher. And yeah, we're exploring this week the theme Imagine That, and as well as looking at ways in which we can wake up from the dream that we imagine to be the fullness of reality, rather than a co-created, participated development of experience. And what does that mean? It's kind of just a different way of looking at this experience. And what it comes down to is there's just lots of different ways of looking at this experience. And we tend to think that the current way we're looking at this experience is what we want call reality, as if that reality existed from its own side. And that's not to devalue any of the experiences we might be having, any of the real and significant things we feel about the world, but also actually much more just a way of inviting greater participation, greater alignment, and maybe more beauty and meaningfulness. And this session, I'm going to invite us again to remember, to recall, what is it we really practice for? What is it we really want to see more of? What is it we wish to bring into being in this world, in this life, in this experience? So I'm going to give a short reflection, and then we'll share in some meditative space today. And there's a few things I want to suggest that we do, but really feel invited to just follow your own heart, follow your own way, follow your own rhythm with that. And then we'll have some time for some reflections and questions. And those of you who were here yesterday will know that we had a little flurry of questions at the end, a few things to respond to and pick up from. They were all really good, really, really good questions. So, as well as working with the lines from an Edgar Allan Poe poem, um, we're also actually unpacking words that end in "sume." There's been assume, presume, and today I want to kind of emphasize around the word consume. Sume more or less has the meaning of to take. Yeah. So we assume, we take on these postures, assumptions, presume, we take before, there's a before taken, and that shapes what comes through. And then we actually tend to consume what we have presumed to assume. In other words, we take it in, we absorb, we digest, and you are what you eat. We become what we consume. Yeah, we become that way of consuming. It shapes us, and it shapes the world. So we take in, and interestingly, we could also say we get taken in by that process, and we get taken in, and we think, oh yeah, that's how things are. And there's an interesting psychological principle called the confirmation bias, right? It confirms our expectations. Yeah. Maybe we won't go too far into that, but what that means in terms of the Buddha Dharma, which in a sense is a dukkha Dharma, understanding Dharma, the law, the principles by which dukkha comes about, and therefore by which principles dukkha, stress, distress, suffering, pain, reactivity, right? That's dukkha, how that can be released. Okay, so when we try and get or get rid of seemingly constant and substantial things, talked about that more yesterday, right? When we get them or we get rid of them, there's this moment, it's like, oh, there's the relief. I got rid of that thing. Or I finally got it, and there's that relief of that dukkha. Yeah. It's that ceasing of that stress and distress because I got it or I got rid of it. And that confirmation bias could imply to us, oh, that's the way to go about it, right? We alleviate the conditions of thirsting demands by taking away or resolving the necessity of getting or getting rid of that intermediate goal. I want that role, I want that respect, I want that experience, I want that position, all of that. And we've projected, presumed, assumed a thingness to the thing, as if it has that from its own side. And if I get that or get rid of that, that's going to do it. And for this self with its own selfhood, likewise, as if from its own side. And yesterday we were kind of questioning that through both seeing the inconstancy and also seeing, if I look at inconstancy, I see that it depends what I see, what I find. So the substantiality is also kind of questioned, the individuality, the independence of that thing. Okay. So all of that would be called, not construing quite right, right? It's not the getting and the getting rid of the intermediate things that actually brings the relief. The ending of demand, the ending of that push-pull, that reactivity response relationship, that's the goal of the Buddha Dharma. And so for us, the kind of the question then comes, well, what's the best way of getting there, right? So obviously, question reality, but actually also question the independence and projection that we're making onto these things as they must be constant. And if I get them, then this thing that must be constant will also be relieved by those things. Okay, big question there. And also question, is the problem in having and not having, right? Or is it actually more the problem is in the relationship? And I've joked in the past, and I'm happy to joke about it again and say what the Buddha offers us is actually relationship advice, right? It's actually a relationship advice. It's not quite agony aunt, agony uncle, newspaper column relationship advice, but it's, could you reduce the demand more and then a bit more and appreciate for yourself what's really possible in letting go of what you're grabbing onto, letting in what you're trying to keep away, letting be what's already arisen and is already here. And what does that do for the quality of dukkha in our experience, right? Because otherwise we're consuming what we did not notice we presumed to assume. Yeah, we've taken a shape, we've taken a response, and we're eating that, right? pulling on this thread or following this path more and more, we actually see it's actually fabricated perceptions, appearances in awareness, which are subjective. Yeah, and that's what we're eating or trying to defeat. Eating, defeating, going on and on and on. Yeah. And we're chasing after these, kind of apparent delights or hiding from the terrors of our apparent projections, right? And we're not gaining the well-being that's available for us because those ways kind of stray us from our ethical heart. Yeah, the heart, the center, the path that we're very much walking here, and stray us from our meaningfulnesses. So you remember what you're saying, keep in mind, what is it you want to see more of? And is that more of going to come through, greed and hatred, right? The very common hindrance directions. Yeah. Because otherwise we are both consumed by our reactivity and we end up consuming that reactivity. It kind of becomes us. And that is also an assuming. We take that shape. Okay, so I hope that all of that kind of makes sense as a way of speaking about things that are happening. So fundamental presumptions, it must be concerned, it must be substantial, I must be constant, I must be substantial. Get those things together leads to what we might call a hindrance attack, means to follow greed and hatred of things that don't and actually can't fulfill us and don't and actually can't really threaten us, right? That actually the hindrance views are what create the limitations and the boundary conditions of stressfulness. And they give us a wrong sense of life and give us a wrong sense of what we should be doing, right? And then coming into tune with that, we start to find the capacity, the capability, because these things work both ways, to actually give us a better sense of life and a better sense of relating, and actually bring us the well-being that we were seeking in the wrong places, right? So it's not a path of denial. Yeah, it's not a path of self-denial. It's not I don't exist, I don't deserve, I will get nothing. Yeah, or a denial of our passions, even in a really kind of fundamental way. When those passions are aligned with meaningfulness for us, like, what would that serve if we just said, "Oh, all of that's meaningless"? This whole path is about, not wanting anything. Not wanting anything? What, not even wanting, not wanting anything? It gets a bit circular, right? It can't be about that. It's actually about something more. And equally, it's really clearly saying there's very limited pleasure available in hedonism, yeah, in seeking pleasure. Nothing like the happiness that we sought there, right? And in fact, not only because it's inconstant and insubstantial, but actually because it's an unwholesome way of relating. And it's really only through a more virtuous, a more delightful, a more beautiful way of relating that happiness is possible. And as you'll know, when there's joy, there's appreciation as a way of relating to that joy. And that way of relating, of appreciation, actually builds joy. We choose to see the world with more appreciation when we take the time and it's like, oh, there's that tree. And we just stop. It's like, wow, a tree. I mean, goodness. And appreciate that it's there, appreciate also what it's doing, appreciate that its roots are deep in the earth, appreciate that we can resonate with that. And when we shift out of, our reactivity and move more into sharing, into participation, gives us more connection. Now, how can I serve you? How are you already serving me? As we can feel in this Sangha gathering, yeah, it's a participation. When we're able to experience generosity, yeah, really brings us much closer to happiness. As I was thinking about this session, I was thinking about the Buddha, and I was also thinking about Aristotle, who kind of similarly informed us to seek happiness by following something deeper, finding something deeper than our horizontal demands. Yeah, like working this way, something deeper, higher, something that elevates. what Aristotle and his kind of fellow Sangha were calling the daemon, the soul's calling. And it's not just to say, oh, that's real, but actually that's a way of elevating, of clarifying, and of deepening our understanding of life. And it invites us to pay really wise attention to the how things are happening, not just the what is happening. Like, how is this coming into being? What am I bringing into being? And this really aligns well with the Buddha's principle of skill building. This is a skill building practice. And we've evolved to be this way, and there's beauty and delight in those evolutionary impulses towards greed, fill up with fat, sugar, position, all of those kinds of things, so that we find our place and sustain and exist for the next moment. But also our kind of intelligent evolution, our heartful evolution. It's actually faster than the slow millennia creep of biological evolution. In this moment, I can understand this way does not lead to freedom. This view of things does not lead to well-being. And I can change so that I'm able to let go, to let out, to let in, to let be. And that's kind of that counter-evolutionary moment, that positive transcendence of limitation. And then we repeat that insightful experience enough so that we really get it. And really get to see maybe generosity, appreciation, even renunciation. Yeah, really give us back what we can give back more than what we mistakenly took and grabbed onto. And our appreciation, our kindness allows us to kind of pay forwards what can benefit all of us. Like, it benefits us in the giving, and it benefits others in the receiving, and it benefits the world in that's the movement of a community. And also specifically, personally, that our intentions in each moment that we remember are aligned with the meaningfulness of what it is we wish to see more of. And so let's take half an hour together actually aligning with what we want to see more of, and letting go of those habitual patterns to push and to pull, to fiddle and to fix, and bring ourselves, then in a certain way, the world, to a place of greater well-being. So I just invite you to question what posture best serves your particular intention. And it could be reclining with that restfulness, that deep rooting like a tree. It could be standing with that sense of standing for something, sitting, stillness in the midst of life. Be walking, movement in some way. So finding yourself in this shape, assuming this posture, and allowing it to do its work, its contribution, softening what's tight and would benefit from softening, inviting to soften, aligning. There needs more uprightness, more resting back, coming forwards, seeking out the well-being that maybe is available. It's a way of releasing, relaxing, and also enlivening and brightening. through the posture. As we pay attention to our current experience, letting it express that intention through that way of relating, giving ourselves some relationship advice. Let's meet in that way. Meet with peacefulness, meet with calmness, meet with appreciation, whatever it is that we wish to see more of, letting it transmute into a relational mode. And pay attention to what's here, what's present in the breath, the sensations, or in the sounds and the vibrations that meet us, or whatever else you wish to pay attention to. So for many of us, we find that the mind grabs onto things, the natural unfolding of the presumption, assumption that there's something there for us. It can be difficult to let go. Maybe that thinking, it can be co-creating a story of oneself and the world, remembering, retelling, planning. It's understandable. It's not something to make too much of a problem about, but at the same time, as a practice, as a meditation, we're heading for something a little different sometimes. Are we willing to let go of what we've taken, what we've appropriated as my thinking? It's just thinking what I want. It's just some wanting going on. We can open around it. We notice, we don't reject, we include. And in that inclusion, we also, in a way, transcend. No, this is what's happening. So we can let go of holding on to that, letting it be, not rejecting, not pushing away, but letting go of the grip that we co-participate in. And letting come through a wider, softer, sensitive, attentive attention. A current unfolding present experience of life through the breath, through the sounds, or however else it best expresses itself. Once again, we might notice that the attention is grabbed onto something, is holding something, maybe trying to pull towards or push away some condition. And remembering that the teachings suggest that that's not optimal for us, that we don't need to be so reactive. That could be because we understand it's not a constant thing, it's not a substantial thing from its own side. Whatever that might mean for us, maybe that invites a different way. Non-reactivity, more peaceful, letting it arise and letting it into consciousness, letting it remain, letting it be here. Also letting it go because it's already changed. Never had constancy. And as we open, become less contracted, it will change. We will change together. Neither has own being. Depends on the way of relating. And hopefully that aligns with your own particular meaningfulness, what you wish to see more of. So you release the grip, but don't lose connection fully. Stop pushing away and allow things in, but in a more spacious sense of things. The whole body, a wider awareness of listening, whatever field we're working in, letting that support this meeting. In short, we could name this practice as opening the grip of attention to an open palm that's receptive, soft, sensitive, alive, much more free of demands than is normal. The last 5 or so minutes, I'm going to suggest maybe new way of practicing for some of you. It's an old way. It comes from the Thai forest tradition. Um, and it's a way, I feel, of generating the well-being that supports us in letting go of unhelpful patterns. But it's very much optional. If you have your own way of practicing and you want to stick to that, that's totally fine. And just ignore this part. It'll just be words and you just carry on with your way. This comes through the Ajahn Lee tradition, who's a meditation master who trained others. We can talk about that another time. And it uses the imagination. It uses a sense of the breath as an energy more than just a physiology, a biology. And just inviting you to bring your attention down to the belly and even lower than the belly. So kind of come to the belly button and below, that softness of belly there, and that whole space beneath the belly button, beneath the belly. And imagine that the breath comes in at the front of the belly and fills the space behind. Just take 3 breaths, just imagining that area being touched by, nourished by breath. Hopefully you met the right to the sides, might even spread to a little bit more than the physiology imagination. And this time as the breath comes in, it's more bright. So we're imagining, we're feeling imagining and sensitive to it all with that same rhythm of the breathing. 3 breaths, bright, wide, enlivening. Now we're going to come up the torso a little bit, like about a hand's width above the belly button, kind of coming into that area, the softness, the organs, the aliveness behind there, and filling that area with breath for 3 breaths. So kind of breathing in, filling in, it might flow back out through the front again, or it might radiate out in all directions. with a sense of above and below. It might touch the lower area we just worked with. It might start to come up a little bit inside the rib cage. And again, brightness, enlivening, nourishing, as if through that breath, inviting you to come up a little bit higher. Of course, when you do this on your own, you can do it slower, but come up to something like the heart area of the chest, the center of the chest. Imagine the breath pouring in through here, filling right to the back of the body, the sides, under the arms, the top of the shoulders, and down to that area that we were just working. First, the breath just filling, touching, maybe soothing, maybe nourishing. And we take 3 breaths, more bright, more energizing. Allowing the breath, the brightness to come up through the throat. We breathe in, it's as if we're breathing it up, breathing out, letting it expand around. And then being very delicate, but we'll bring the attention to the very center of the head, not pushing against the sensitive eyes and other things, and being very delicate, also allowing the breath to brighten, to nourish. Pouring in through all the sense doors, through all the pores, pouring out. So you might have a sense of brightening, enlivening through the torso, up to the head, out the crown. And we're going to breathe from here a few flows of breath. So imagine that the breath kind of pours from the back of the head down the back of the neck, across the shoulders, all the way down the arms to the fingertips. And that's one kind of in-breath filling. And the out-breath just radiating out from there in all directions, all sides. Might need to lengthen the breath so we can get there without feeling a rush. Don't try and move more air, try and breathe more slowly, maybe. A few more breaths, just balancing the sides, making sure it's not too much on one than the other. And then we'll take a breath from the same point, but this time we're going to pour the breath down the spine, down to the coccyx, the base of our tailbone, and then radiate it out, particularly out the back. Filling, enlivening through the in-breath, down both sides of the spine relatively equally. And then pouring out the back, I imagine big angel wings of breath pouring out. And then we'll come in at the small of the back now and down the legs, feet. That one in-breath flowing, enlivening. and radiating out in all directions. Now, just taking a moment, being here, whole body, breath unfolding. See if there's any sense of well-being generated by this practice. And you can breathe in imaginative ways, or you can feel the breath in familiar ways. And together we'll begin to transition from our meditation together. And as always, transition really means carry with you what you've enjoyed. And if you're enjoying yourself, that would be lovely. Then feel free to stay in your meditation completely. And we'll meet up when it's the right time. But whatever you've cultivated in terms of sensitivity, in terms of meaningfulness with your intentions, letting that be with you, letting that support you, letting that live through you, so to speak. So I wanted to drop that kind of idea into place because a lot of the time we might speak about, letting go, even renunciation, in the sense of a deprivement from well-being, a deprivement from the things that are worth having. And I just wanted to kind of hopefully give a sense. It's like, oh, actually breathing is really nice when you do it in certain ways. And when you encourage and allow your imagination to be a part of your experience. When we presume and assume things certain ways, we can generate for ourselves a sense of well-being. And so I fully allow for the fact that for some of us, that would just be didn't do anything, didn't like it, don't like all those words. That's fine. It's really fine. Uh, there can't be everything for anyone. It can't be everything for everyone. And that's a good thing. It's really a good thing. The diversity, the individuality, all of that, really important, really good for us. So, yeah, that was meant to be a gift. I hope it was helpful. Can't guarantee. Um, for some of you, it's going to be like, oh, that's refreshing. That's really nice. And for some of you, not. That's meant to be that way. Um, and in terms of gifts, this is a gift. The whole Dharma has been gifted to us. Those who work behind the scenes to make places like this appear, that we can step into it, that they had those presumptions and assumptions and consumptions, and they, wow, come on, let's do this. That would be something beautiful. That would be something helpful. And so this is all a gift, and you're a gift. And how we're able to relate to that, hopefully it will be in ways that are supportive for everyone, for all of us. And I really hope that's the case. And I really hope that nobody feels pressured to do anything, but really widely invited to participate. Yeah. So um, let's have some time for questions. We have about 5 minutes or so remaining in the session. As I said, I have some from yesterday. Maybe I'll start with Jonathan's question because I think it's quite important. It's mentioning what we were talking about. I was talking about inconstancy. A common translation of anicca is impermanence, and it's the word impermanence which is used in this question. And that's actually part of an interesting thing, is like how we translate things actually really matters to us. Yeah, it's called verbal fabrication in the teachings, but the words we use shape the experiences we have as well. So theoretically, I can understand impermanence, but in the UK, the politicians are dog whistling against certain ethnic groups and refugees. So many of you know about that policy. It's very unpleasant. Does a Nietzsche mean one should ignore ethnic or cultural identities and not be so bothered by these politicians' words and actions? In short, no, and obviously not. And I love that this question arises, right? Because it shows my ethical integrity is stronger than the teachings. Will I adopt this because does it align with my ethical integrity? And if it doesn't, I'm not sure what someone's talking about. So we're actually talking about things being inconstant. Okay, so ethnicity is inconstant, right? It's an appearance. It's something that we give substance to, but it's very difficult to say that two people from one ethnic identity are more similar necessarily than two people not from that. They might actually have more similarities in certain ways. It's a way of kind of seeing things and creating things, and it's useful. It has a function in society. But what it means is because it's inconstant, it's changing. Yeah, it's changing. And policies, politicians, all of these things are changing. And I think a Nietzsche, in those senses, is an invitation to participate in the change we wish to see. Yeah. And the quote attributed to Gandhi probably didn't quite say it this way, but like, be the change you wish to see. Yeah. And a Nietzsche says it's all inconstant, right? Anything that appears to be constant can't be. And then can we move in that way that's going to support that? Yeah. So I hope that's helpful. I think it's an empowering teaching, and it shouldn't just be taken as a truth from its own side, but actually when I see things this way, they start to move, and that's really significant. I feel empowered to move. Good, let's do it. Let's move. And what do we move according to? Our ethics. Our ethics. And that's what your question was really rooted around, Jonathan. So thanks for bringing that in. Um, yeah, so let's see. I think we've had a question, some nice appreciation for the practice. Um, that left some of us with a sense of spaciousness and alertness within. For some, it actually made them feel more relaxed and even kind of sleepy because it was soothing. For some, there was a sense of opening. Interesting, right? To see what kind of things happen. If you enjoy these things, really do feel invited to kind of check them out. Um, so yeah, you can look up Ajahn Lee and breathing. You might find something there. So yeah, there's also a lovely book online that actually unpacks that called "With Each and Every Breath." With each and every breath. It's written by Ajahn Jeff, who also goes by Tanisaro Bhikkhu, and it's free. And it includes actually, I think, a description of that practice he was practiced under Ajahn Lee. So there was also a reflection which has some kind of question elements in it from yesterday, and yeah, it was this kind of from Vanessa noticing a kind of co-arising with the Vedana, with the sounds. So the Vedana is this kind of preference quality. We say, oh, that's pleasant, that's unpleasant, that's neither nor. And there was a pain in my shoulder that also had an unpleasant Vedana, Vanessa's writing, and I got glimpses of kind of subtle change. I want it to change and also know this doesn't help. So there's kind of more insight again around kind of the co-arising of like wanting and then, oh, that doesn't help. So there's this kind of strong attachment to a sense of its permanence and aversion to it the same, and kind of seeing how those are kind of codependency reactions. So I want it to change and also know this doesn't help. I just want to respond to that bit because actually wanting it to change may actually be okay, I feel. Demanding that it change on my timetable is obviously problematic and it's counterproductive. But we're allowed to want things to change. It's okay, right? Don't feel like you have to suppress that. But actually, it's then that it brings in that intelligent question, which is, I hope, what we're kind of exploring here more and more, is what when I do it? supports that greater well-being, that skillful questioning, that what should we do about that ability to change. Okay, so I know we've reached time here, and yeah, I really enjoyed being with you once again, and I hope that's helpful. In a moment, I'll just type Ajahn, Jeff, Tenisarobiku into the chat box, so that those of you who are here can see it, and I'll encourage the team to put it up as a link, so that you can explore that way of practicing again in your own time. All right, so take care. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow when we'll have some more teachings and practices opening out this experience. Okay, see you soon.